What's up YouTube? Dale here from Zephyr Wargames, and first off, may I all wish you a very happy New Year celebration tonight, moving into 2023, where I hope you will all continue to follow us going forward, where we can continue to bring you all awesome content. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything else coming up in 2023. So today, what am I bringing you? Well, as the title suggests, I am bringing you a blind go second OTK version of Dark Worlds. I can't believe of all the versions I've done, I haven't shown you this version as of yet. And trust me, if you are completely happy with whatever your opponent can put on the board you feel you can deal with, this version is the one for you. It's incredibly fun, very, very powerful, and the best thing about that is you can then start siding into cards that are going to allow you to go first. So you can really surprise your opponent and they'll be like, what's going on? Is this deck a go second deck or a go first deck? So, let's dive headfirst into the profile. I'll explain everything as I've got it and why I've got it the way it is, and then we can go from there. So I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. So we're going to start off with triple Snow, triple Genta. That's pretty standard on everything I've shown you before. We then play one gold and one Ceruli. Now, the reason we play gold Ceruli but no silver is for the pure fact that we're not planning to hand loop our opponent. It's very rare when you're going, like if you're going second, that you want to be hand looping your opponent. Yes, if anything, I would bump gold up to 2, just so you have 2 monsters that can then be discarded and summon themselves back, and then keep looping the resource back to your hand. So that's completely understandable. The issue is the best targets for Ceruli to be discarded from your hand will be gold, because then it'll be a double pop, which is really, really nice. You can get Snow, which will revive one from your opponent's graveyard. You then also get Rainbow, which will allow you to special from your deck. I've also been told as well, I can't call it Genta anymore. It's like Magenta, so it's Genta, but obviously G and J. So anyway. That's kind of like the lower level lineups. For the normal summons of the deck, and obviously all of this will lead into other stuff. It makes sense when I get there. So for the normal summons of the deck, we've got 2 Fairy Tail Luna, and because we're a blind second deck, we are rocking 3 Lava Golem. Now, 3 Lava Golem would usually be enough out and out, which is completely fine. The reason I've gone with 3 Lava Golem and 2 Fairy Tail is because technically Fairy Tail can do the same job. Now what I mean by that is when I normal summon Luna, I will then use her effect to search out the second copy of herself. Unless I've already opened up the second copy and then it sucks a little bit. But the idea would be that if my opponent's that desperate that he doesn't want me to get a second copy of Fairy Tail Luna, he can then chain the effect, or she can chain the effect, to try and stop it. I can then chain Luna's effect in order to try and bounce one of my opponent's monsters. Now, obviously, going second, they're going to be putting more unique one-of power cards on the board. Now, obviously, if you're facing down something like a Fenrir, if you're facing down something like less so a Sprite Red, because they've probably only got 1 or 2 of those, but if you're facing down a card you know they've got multiples of, obviously don't target that card. But if they've got something like a Kit Kalos, or a Gigantic Sprite, or a Sprite Elf, you can then force the Sprite Elf, or anything like that, by going, cool, chain Fairy Tail Luna's effect. So not only have they used an effect to try and stop you getting a second copy of Luna, you then use the effect to try and bounce their monster. They will then need to use a secondary effect in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. Entirely optional, you can cut it completely. It is a 45 card deck. Lava Golem is your main normal summon. This is the card that you really don't care about normal summoning anything else. You just Lava Golem your opponent, laugh a little bit inside, and then continue to make your plays. Obviously, the only downside of Lava Golem is that it doesn't replace itself. You kind of go from there. Alternatively to Fairy Tail Snow, if you really, really wanted to, you could put Fenrir in here. I have taken Fenrir out for this version because I'm just going all out aggression. Fenrir does help with that aggression, but quite like in the form of Fairy Tail Luna, you don't want to open up too many cards that aren't going to replace themselves in the hand and work it from there. So the reason we then flow onto Lava Golem is we're then going to flow onto our level 8s. And the level 8s are very important because we are playing trading in this version. So, triple Grepher, even more important now going second because it has that effect to pop a card on the field every time it is discarded via card effect. And obviously it won't trigger off a trade-in. Very, very sad that that one is a trigger as cost. Sad days. But what it can do is if it's discarded off a danger, rather than just going, okay, well, mandatory activate Grepher, but can't pop anything. Yeah, okay, cool. You actually go, cool, Grepher, pop a card, loop everything back to hand. Grepher, pop a card, loop everything back to hand. Grepher, pop a card. It's so good, so powerful. It's even better going second. Then we've got Triple Rainbow. Obviously, I think this is pretty straightforward on this one. The hand resource loop with this deck is insane. And with trading as well, there are times where you want to put these in the graveyard, even though you're not getting the effect, because you've got a Dark One on the board that you're just going to bounce back. Now, Genta and Gold are the ones that are going to be put on the board without without normal summoning. It's rare that you want to put Snow or anything else on there, but there's so many ways to loop your board and even go through the Fiend block and still lead into an OTK. It's insane. Then the other level 8s we play. So I am playing 2 Bigfoot and 1 Thunderbird. I did highly consider actually bumping Bigfoot up to 3. So I'm not too sure on that one. I kind of wanted to keep Thunderbird in because I was like, on the off chance my opponent has a set card, like an Imperm or something like a Double Cross, a Smashes, anything like that, at least Thunderbird can bait that out. Now, if you wanted to, you could be playing stuff like Twin Twisters, but there is a card we are playing to deal with back row, and it deals with front row and back row as well, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. But as you can see, we've got a very nice lineup of 12 level 8s, which is really, really important because then we also play 2 trade-ins. Now, the trade-in is even more important because if you activate trade-in and ditch a Bigfoot or a Thunderbird, you'll either get a pop of a face-up or pop of a set card. So that can be really cool because you'll draw 2 and then trigger that effect as well. Obviously, keep in mind it won't trigger these guys' effects, but you'll be putting those in the graveyard if you've got a Dartwood on the board that you can loop back to the hand, and you're just drawing 2. You can play free trading if you want, but I highly don't advise it because we do play other draw cards in the form of Allure of Darkness, Gate of the Darkworld, Triple Tactics, and of course Archives. So this ratio is working out perfectly fine. So continuing off the back of the level 8s, we'll go through the rest of our dangers. So the rest of the dangers we are playing is 2 Nessie, 1 Jackalope, and 1 Sukanoko. So you can see that I've kind of cut the danger ratio down, and we still are playing 2 Salamander. So in theory, when you look at the amount of dangers we are playing 9 dangers, if you count Salamander. I've taken out Mothman and I've taken out Ogopogo. Now, there are 2 flex spots later on down the line. Obviously, 2 flex spots can be Fairy Tail Luna if you want to swap those around as well. And if you were to put more in here, Bigfoot going up to 3 would be the first thing I would do, in my opinion. The issue is you don't want to open up... Like, Blind going second, if you open up multiple Nessies, it can be a bit of a pain in the backside. If you open up multiple Bigfoots, you're kind of okay, because if you hit one of them, you'll pop in a card, then you reveal the second one and you go again. Plus, they're 3k boss monsters, which is really kind of cool. Ogopogo just... Obviously, in this version, I'm not trying to burn through all of my dangers. Yes, they'll help me trigger my Grapha Pops, but you do have to be very, very careful because with certain cards, you are losing hand resource already. So, for example, if I use Lava Golem, I'm not replacing that Lava Golem I've already put on the board. Whereas with Luna, I can replace itself, so I maintain my 6-card hand. And obviously, going second, you get that extra card anyway. We've already seen what this deck can do with 5 cards. When you add that 6th card into it, it can go that little bit further and afford to lose 1 card through a summon but not replenish itself. So when you're looking at something like Super Poly or Twin Twisters, you do have to be a little bit careful because you're losing 2 cards from your hand. So straight away you're going to a 4 card unless you're discarding something like a Nessie. So if you were to max out and put in Twin Twisters in this version as well, you could arguably put Nessie up to 3, just so you're making sure that every time you discard off of the Twin Twisters, you're getting some form of value back from it. And then the last monster that we play is the Zephyros, the Elite. I wouldn't say it counts as a danger, but technically if you do hit it off a danger, it would then count as a danger because you just bounce one of them back to your hand and go again. But through playing, just in my normal version, this card has been a pain in the arse because literally I'll either draw it off of a danger, then reveal a danger, like a 50-50 danger, and then hit the danger, and I'm like, ah. I completely understand those of you that just despise dangers for the pure fact that they are very, very luck-orientated. So if you're like, you know what, I don't want to play dangers at all, but I still want to play a go second, then you've got 7 flex spots, technically even more if you include the 2 trade-ins as well, because arguably the trade-in would then be cut down from 12 targets to 9 targets, unless you're going to place it with other level 8s and you want to go like Chaos Control or anything like that. You could play Beginning of the End. That is another card that I've had people mention to me. The reason I don't like Beginning of the End is, yes, trading requires itself plus a level 8, but Beginning of the End requires you to have 7 darks. Now, yes, it is easy to get those darks in the graveyard once you get going, but the issue is if I open up an opening hand of 5 and one of them is Beginning of the End, you need to set that Beginning of the End so you don't lose it completely, and then you're playing with 4 cards trying to loop around until you get 7 in the grave to then activate Beginning of the End to draw 3 more cards, and even then, you're playing like a main deck, in a sense, you're playing a main deck Saruja because you're digging for a card to then draw more cards, and you can't always guarantee you're going to get to it. So it is a bit hit and miss. It is entirely up to you. Plus, there's not really a lot of dark targets you want to banish. Like, yes, you might want to banish Genta if you haven't used its effect to special summon itself back, but you don't really want to banish Shiruli. You don't really want to banish, definitely don't want to banish Rainbow or Greffa if you can absolutely help it. So the only cards you want to banish are your dangers, and even then, you've still got to get the dangers on the board, get the dangers into the graveyard, or have their effects used as a discard fodder. So to me, it's not worth the risk and reward, whereas stuff like Trading only requires 1 other card, and then it can help trigger other effects, and then stuff like Allure can be played with no cards in hand. You just need to hope and pray you draw into a dark. So moving on to the spells, obviously the one we have is Lightning Storm. Now, this is a little bit risky. The reason this is risky is if you do not open it in your opening hand of 6, it's completely useless and dead. Now, we do have other cards that we can play to burn through, to dig through. So stuff like Trading will keep you without having a face-up card on the field. Stuff like Allure of Darkness will again will allow you to keep digging without having a face-up card on the field. So there are ways to dig through this, and the reason you're trying to dig for a Lightning Storm is it does the job of 2 cards rather than 1. Now, if you didn't want to play Lightning Storm, but you wanted to get the same effects, you would, in theory, need to play like 3 Regekis or 3 Dark Holes, plus a Harpy's Feather Duster, and then like 2 Twin Twisters, 2 Cosmic Cyclones, anything like that, to max out or get the same level as Lightning Storm. Now, yes, in those examples, they aren't hard once per turns. I mean, your closest alternative will probably be MST. The issue is Harpy's Feather Dust to deal with back row is minimal. And you don't want to be playing 6 cards. So like if my opponent's playing a control deck, Raigeki is 9 times out of 10 going to be useless. If they're playing a forward heavy deck, then it means the Harpy's Dust is pretty useless. But I'm still playing 4, possibly even 6 cards to do a job of a card that can be done in 3. So that's the reason we've gone with Lightning Storm. It's entirely up to you. But the reason we went with this over everything else is evenly you lose your battle phase. Droplets, you burn through your hand advantage. Dart Ruler, you don't get to do damage to push for an OTK. So they're all kind of counterproductive. The best alternatives are stuff like Dark Hole, like Raigeki. And yes, your opponent could smartly play around this by putting their monsters in defense. But that's when a Ceruli comes into play. Because giving your opponent Ceruli... Now, let me just double check this. This is something I did consider when I was putting this together. And I was like, I can't remember the exact wording on Ceruli. I do have an old version. Actually, I've got a new version next to me. Let's have a double check. If this card is special summon by the effect of a special summon this card to your opponent's field in defense. That's so sad. I was like, why couldn't I just special summon Ceruli to my opponent's field in attack? Like, why has it got to be defense? If it's attack, then I don't really care what they put on the board. I just put it in attack and punch over it. Okay, well, Cerule's a little bit sadder. But still, you can then discard a Grapha, discard a gold, pop 2, pop 1, go from there. Then, of course, we continue with the draw cards. We've got double Allure, double Gates, technically a draw card. Then, of course, double Ascension, alongside double, triple Tactics, 1 Archives. So, obviously, Archives is very important going second because that discard from the hand, triggering an effect to then boost the attack of all Dark Worlds is very, very important. And like I said, what is going to be so good in this version is the Muttrucker and Zelantis combo. So I'll show you that, and it's not like a full-on combo, but the idea is you get to Zelantis, and then you get to Muttrucker, and then you use Muttrucker's effect to lock you into Fiends, then use Zelantis' effect to clear the entire board, and then go from there. And then all you need to do is get 2 level 4s on the board to make Daguerres. Daguerres can then make the target the Muttrucker brings back from the grave basically a 6k or even higher because of Gate as well. And then you're pushing for OTK that route. So that's kind of like the lineup there. And then the last 2 cards is entirely up to you. I went with 2 Skill Drain. And the reason I went with 2 Skill Drain is, in theory, not that I'm ever going to choose to go first, but if you can't OTK, if you can break your opponent's board, bring them down to nothing, but you can't continue or complete the OTK, what does that then leave you on? Now, obviously, you can go through the extra deck and try and get a couple of defensive cards. You can go with the IP and Unicorn and everything like that. But I kind of went with this over something like a Super Poly. You can use Super Poly if you want to. This is 2 completely open flex spotses. Or spotses? I sound like Gollum. Spotses. It's my spotses. Anyway, back to reality. You could take these out, cut the deck down to a 43 card deck. You could keep them in, or you can swap them for something like a Super Poly. You're kind of finding a middle ground. You're finding a card that you don't want to be playing at 3, or you can bump up Talents to 3, Allure to 3 if you want to. But like I said, I think these cards are riskies at 3. 2s are kind of the right levels for them. And then it really comes down to what you want to do. Now, the idea is that I've got a card in my deck that if I can't complete the OTK, I do still have a chance of being able to go, right, okay, set a back row, and then it's going to be very, very rare that there's any deck out there that can beat a skill-drained Dark World deck. Because their biggest boss monster that can get up from the main deck can get up to 33. Technically 36 if they play Gates of Dark World, just saying. And then from your extra deck can go up to 35. So you've got plays to make that make it very difficult for your opponent to just beat over them and get through to game. So, and they're the ones that you can loop back from the graveyard over and over and over again. So it does give you an option, but like I said, these 2 cards can be cut completely. They can be swapped around for anything particular. So if you wanted to, this could be a Duster and a Cosmic. This could be your 3 Raigekis and 2 Dark Holes. or anything like that. So there is creative freedom in this. This is just to give you a structure to kind of go, oh, okay, I see where it's going. I see where my power monsters are coming from and how I can kind of move on from there. So the extra deck, we start off with, of course, 2 Grapha Dragons. Then for the Link monsters, I've gone with board-breaking cards and, of course, consistency cards. So we've got Underworld Goddess. This is so good if your opponent just, like, gets lapsical. And what I mean by that, if they're just like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll let you continue to put that monster on the board. Yeah, okay, it's got 4 monsters on the board. It's rare that anyone's playing this in the format. I don't really care. Oh, wait, I've just had my towers linked off or anything like that. So, again, in matchups where your opponent just goes, here's the towers, and you're like, do I actually have anything out that in my deck? Well, now you do. So, Underworld Goddess, incredibly powerful, works really, really well, and you can still be made if you lock yourself into Fiends, so that's very important. Saruja, pretty straightforward on that one. Saruja will go into Zelantis. Saruja is your consistency. It will let you special summon an additional 1 from the hand. It will boost up their attacks as well, and that can help you push for the OTK. Obviously, the Muckrucker and the World Sea board wipe combo, already explained that. And then I went with BLS, and the reason I went with BLS is just because it is an insane boss monster. And it's another one of them ones where if I can't guarantee the OTK, well, what I can do is I can make a near indestructible BLS that can constantly get up to 45 and then 6k. So if I can't kill them that turn, the chances are that I've burnt through so many resources, I've put towers on the board that they can struggle to deal with, and then make him even stronger. Now, you can use Avramax instead if you want to, but that's entirely up to you. One way that we make this a little bit easier is that we do play the one Dark, the Dark Charmer. Again, these are flex spots. So, Cross Sheep and a Kashik Magician. The reason I like this is you can bounce back a danger and bounce back one of your opponent's cards, which is really nice. But the reason we've got these 3 here is they can become Super Poly targets. And the best thing about Super Poly targets is if you get a Grepher on your board and you give your opponent Ceruli, you can technically Super Poly using your Grepher and their Ceruli and go into the guarantee of the Grepher. If not, and they're just playing Darks, you've got Starving Venom, you've got Dracostapelia, you've got everything like that. You've just got to be careful because against tier elements, you'll trigger their bloody effects because who thought that was a smart idea in card design? Anyway, so these are a couple of flex spots you can change around. Obviously, Cross Sheep is in here to help you consider to make your rank 4 plays. And the reason you'll make rank 4 plays is that you're going to opt to go for a Daguerres to push for an OTK because you can double up one of your monster's attacks and you do play heavy boss monsters. Alternatively, you do have a Baguska. This is, again, another one of them fallbacks of, okay, my opponent shifted me, or I'm on a D-fissure, or I can't guarantee an OTK, so I'm going to make Baguska and hold out for a couple of turns until I regain advantage. And then the final one, because we are going blind second and you want to push for OTK as easy as you possibly can, it is the Rank 8 engine. Now, this is finally a version that will utilise this Rank 8 engine. And what it is number 97, number 38, and number 100. And this is, in my opinion, the most minimum you can make this engine. Now, the reason this is the most minimum it can be made is number 97 requires you to attach, or you summon out a number monster, you select 2 number monsters, summon out one of them, and then use the other one as material for it. So I've got the option to make Hope Harbinger as a hard summon anyway, because I play a lot of level 8s. Alternatively as well, the idea is that you go, okay, Dragula Bond, summon out the Hope Harbinger, or summon out the Nomron Dragon, attach Hope Harbinger. This can become a 10k boss monster. Now, obviously it's only good as a 10k boss monster if your opponent leaves a monster that is less than 2k or 2k or less on the board in face out attack position. But it's also one of these ones where you can just burn through resource after resource after resource, and then they're like, well, you've got a Jenta in defense, and you've got a Snow that you've normal summoned. I do not care, you're not going to be able to kill me. And you just go, alright, well, we'll go Rainbow, bounce the Jenta, we'll go Grapha, bounce the Snow. Cool, what are you going to do? Make a rank 8 of Hope Harbinger. I'm not afraid. And you go, cool, number 97, 97 effect, make Numeron Dragon, 1 punch, let's go. So, again, it's very specific, but it does kind of give you a couple of options. This is why you kind of like, I would have loved to have put Ceruli in attack, because it's like, I don't care what you do, I'm putting a monster in attack, and I'm just going to punch that monster itself to guarantee the OTK. But because that isn't a confirmed thing, you can't do that, it does give you a couple of options to play around with. So as you can see with the extra deck, because this is more consistently accessible, you have a nice balance of fallback cards should you not be able to complete the OTK. You've got bouncing rather than destruction. You've got linking off to deal with towers. You've got banishing the entire board. You've then got swift OTK. You've got turning your effect into I discard a card. And then you've got revival for extension. And then you've got, of course, draw and extension and a near enough mini towers yourself. So you're kind of covering all the bases for a video, well, not a video like this, for a profile like this. But yeah, I am also covering all the bases for a video like this as well to show you that you've got power, you've got control, you've got consistency. The only thing you don't have, which you will not be able to do, is dictate exactly what you're going to play and exactly what they're going to put up. That is the biggest risk about playing a blind go second deck, is in a deck like this, you want to be able to burn through to get to a Lava Golem. You want to be able to break a board. And I feel that when you're comparing Dark Rule No More, when you're comparing Lava Golem, when you're comparing Droplets, in a deck that does not worry about its normal summon, being able to rock a Lava Golem in the main is incredibly powerful, but it can be slightly bricky, which is why you kind of want to be going second, because that extra card can actually be the one that unlocks the entire hand as well. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you a different aspect or a different look on the deck as well itself. I've been loving this deck. There's so many different variations, so many different options. It works out beautifully like a treat, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So if you do have any questions, as absolutely always, guys, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. But as of all of that, please have a very happy, safe New Year's. And let's bring in 2023 together. So thank you so much for watching. As absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for this entire year as well. Let's keep pushing forward to bigger and better things. Stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.